BBC Radio Scotland.
This is a download from the BBC. I'm Janice Forsyth. Welcome to the Culture Studio Picks, my highlight from today's show. So let's meet my first guest, one of the only ones that we just heard. Before that, he was the founder and bass player of the Beat Stalkers, and I know that loads of you will know about Beat Stalkers and seen them, known in the 60s as the Scottish Beatles, and he's still going very strong, years of songwriting and producing, and he's got his own solo single coming out now. It's called Four Winds. Of course I'm going to play it for you, don't be impatient. Let's meet the man himself. A very warm welcome to the Culture Studio to Alan Mair. Hello, Alan.
Hello. Hi, Janice. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine. Really good. Excited about everything.
I am looking forward to playing your record because I think it's absolutely gorgeous.
Fantastic. Good to hear.
Yeah, I really liked it. I liked it instantly. So we'll talk some more about that in a minute. But can we do the nostalgia trip first of all?
Of course.
Because I know listeners of a certain vintage, Beat Stalkers, and maybe for folks who are not, they'll be like, 60s Scottish Beatles, really? Tell us the story of the Beat Stalkers then.
Well, it was Eddie Campbell and I who started the band, and Davy Lennox was at school with me. And it was a very competitive time then. In our year at school, there was probably about 6 bands.
What school was that?
At Shawlands Academy. The Deljacks, and the Antiques. There was a lot of different bands, so it was a very competitive time for bands. So I guess Davy and I left school to be engineers, but the band had already started. Mm-hmm. So we just played all over Scotland, sort of building a following, almost without anyone really knowing, except the towns we went to. Yeah. And of course, then and we started to play the Barrowland and Denison Pally. So the following was building, but it was almost like the press, and nobody else knew about it until, of course, we did a lunchtime concert, which was meant to be a sedate lunchtime concert. A few bands had played the previous days, and it was just like an afternoon tea get-together. And then the Beat Stalkers played it on the Friday, the end of the week, and gradually there's more fans coming into the square. Lots of people travelled.
This is George Square in Glasgow,
Square, yeah. And having been there last year, I thought, it's really a big square. It's much bigger than because they've taken some trees down. I think it's much bigger than I remember. And then suddenly the square was teeming with, they estimated, about 7,000 fans, and of course that spilled onto the street. Traffic was stopped. There's only 3 policemen there, but we had become friends with the Glasgow Tongs, and so
and a gang, for those who don't know. Yeah,
it's better to be friends with them, So they were our kind of bouncers to help, hold back, which we thought, a few hundred fans, and of course then the stage started to collapse. The police came and mounted police as well. And I think from that moment, and of course I remember, I always tried to get hold of the footage. I remember there was it must have been a news reporter helicopter above the square as well. And then gradually, after 3 numbers, the stage collapsed. We were on the back of mounted police to the city chambers. It was kind of crazy. Yeah. Unexpected, really. We thought there'd be a good crowd, but not that kind of reaction.
That's incredible. That was 65.
That was 65.
1965. Yeah. And I'm just being reminded, Shawlands Academy, because we had a notable Scottish artist on the show not so long ago, Archie Forrest, and he was recalling being at Shawlands Academy, and John Martin was also at Shawlands Academy. Quite an establishment.
That's right. John was a year ahead of me. I think he was the year up from me, so I was aware of him. But it wasn't until a bit later, because John he kind of had 2 accents. John, if you met John in London, he actually spoke with an English accent, and then of course next time I saw him was in Scotland, and I'm thinking, you're Scottish.
I suppose it makes sense. You can totally understand it, can't you? If you're trying to get ahead and there's a certain prejudice against you at a certain point in your career, you want to fit in and get ahead. I do understand it, although I know that people get incredibly upset about that kind of thing. Yeah,
you kind of modify it. I do remember the first time coming to London, and especially on the telephone, if I answered the phone, I was constantly being asked, sorry, can you repeat that? And so you just become a little bit more pronounced, Yeah. And I remember going back to Scotland, people say, what's with the accent?
Exactly.
And I'm thinking, what do you mean? You've just modified it to be understood.
It's the same for folk you go and live in the States too. It's just a matter of being understood.
That's right.
That's what it comes down to. And there are also extraordinary connections, aren't there, with David Bowie? Do share, please.
Yeah. Well, I guess having the same manager, John Fenton and Ken Pitt, both of them were looking after us. And of course, David was just the budding songwriter. and of course we would go to Ken Pitt's office, and David would. The thing he used to do, he would sing songs like as if he was performing to thousands of people. He really performed in such a way that you could have. He sold the song, even though we weren't sure of them.
Yeah.
So of course we recorded 3 Bowie songs, but then at the end of the Bowie or the end of the Beat Stalkers, I started making clothes, and Ken Pitt had suggested I used one of his offices for a West End address, and of course David was in those offices all the time, so we became good mates. I was at Ken Pitt's office for about a year.
Yes.
And David just, he was there all the time, so I was there all the time. So during that period, we became good mates.
And did he... So I'm very impressed by the fact you're just like, yeah, and I started making clothes. So was that always a thing you'd done? Were you quite an artistic boy?
I think after coming down to London and going down Carnaby Street, the clothes were so extraordinary that you couldn't get them. You couldn't buy them in Scotland.
Yes.
And so when the band was in Germany one time for 2 months, the landlady of the hotel or the place we were staying had a sewing machine, and I used to watch her sewing, and I thought I'll have a try at that. And so really the last tour of Germany I'd started experimenting to make clothes, and it was really based on not being able to buy them in Scotland.
What were we talking about? Were we talking about quite psychedelic at that point?
Yeah, I made paisley pattern trousers. Things that I look at now and I think, why did I put them on?
But they come back. They're very skinny fitting and then a great big wide flare. It's a lovely look.
Yeah, I think it was. But I think it was the ones that I had that had holes at the tops of them. I did have shirt underneath it, but I look at them now and I think, well, I was proud of them at the time, I guess.
And there's also, I'm confused now, so you were making clothes, but also this sounds so made up, this sounds like it's from Spinal Tap, you sold David Bowie a pair of boots while you were working in Freddie Mercury's shoe shop. What?
Well, it was,
what?
It was my shoe shop.
Right, okay.
Because it went from, I got a shop unit in Kensington Market, still making clothes.
Yes.
And then gradually someone asked me if I could make leather. I made leather trousers, and someone asked if I could make boots in the same leather. And so then I thought, well, yeah, I already had a workshop making clothes, so I just thought, yeah, I'll buy some machines and just start making some boots. And an appetite to learn how to do things, I've always had it.
Well, yeah, so making boots. I was thinking, when you said leather trousers, I think that's quite tricky. I mean, now you've moved on to boots. Yeah, you clearly like a challenge.
Yeah, and then the boot stall in Kensington Market started to do really well.
Gosh.
And Freddie and Roger had a shop unit opposite me. and they used to talk about this little band they had, and I would say to Freddie, can you look after my stall, because my workshop was really busy, I was making a lot of boots. So then gradually his shop shut down, and I said to Freddie, do you want to be my full-time manager? And that was 1971, and for 3 years he kept saying, I'm turning professional, and I thought, yeah, I've heard that one before. And then really on the way to the market, I heard Seven Seas Rye in the car, and got to the market, and I said, Freddie, you've got a hit record. And at the same time, obviously, David Bowie had come up to the market, and I thought, well, have you come up for a pair of boots? He said, no, I just come up for say hello. He said, I haven't got any money. And Space Oddity had already been, it had first round of being not a big hit, but it had been a hit. And I said, you haven't got any? And he said, well, you know what the music industry's like. And I said, oh, just take a pair. Freddie will fit you. If only I wasn't really into taking lots of photographs then, but that would have been
cool. Did he ever pay you?
No.
He owes you for the boots.
No, I saw him quite a few times after that when lad insane, when he started to develop his career into, the next time I went from taking him down to Beckenham's Arts Lab to play to a handful of people, which when I was making clothes at Ken Pitt's, Dave and I would go down to Beckenham's Arts Lab. And the next time I saw him, he was in a sellout concert in Kingston. It was an amazing transformation.
Alan Mair, have you written your extraordinary autobiography?
Well, I have had conversations with Martin Kilty to write
a musical.
Do a book and a musical, yeah. But when the Beat Stalkers were doing the Celtic Connection Festival last year, I said to Martin, well, why, rather than keep it just for me, why don't we make it into a book about the Beat Stalkers? So that's still kind of at the back of it's at the back of the burner, yeah.
Because you're blowing my mind, man, with just the stories you've done already. Right, I want to play the new single coming right up to date,
Fantastic.
4 Winds, which I think I really love, because I love the fact that it ain't a 3-minute love song, and there's a lot going on here, but I think there's a wee bit of a 60s vibe at points in it.
That's good. I quite like kind of 60s. Someone else said 60s psychedelia, and I think I always like music to be slightly psychedelic if it can be achieved.
Well, let's listen. This is it, brand new from Alan Mair, Four Winds.
How much does mankind have? He doesn't know he owns. And how much inside his head, deep within his bones. So is this power in his hand, in his heart and in his mind? He has let Sunday swing to
Brand new, the single Four Winds from Alan Mair. Doing stuff there with that word, winds and wind and all the rest of it, having fun with that, Alan. Really like it. And also, if you don't mind me saying, I think at times a wee reminiscent a wee bit of Donovan vocally.
Oh, yeah, there's that I think that's comparisons been made before.
Yeah.
And somebody else said a bit Bowie-ish. But, but the Donovan, I think, is closer.
Yeah, I think it is that sort of Scottish-y thing that's going on. Beautiful song. So tell us more about what else you're doing. Is there going to be an album or what?
Yeah, I've already got the next single kind of almost finished. It's called Stairway to Hell. Which I guess being the person and the only ones who never indulged in substances, it's an anti-drug song. Almost quite a naive look at an anti-drug abuse. But anyway, Stairway to Hell is the next single planned for next March. And then there'll be an album probably September called Field of One.
Very good, very good. And so was that the case then? You sort of stayed clean throughout all the Summer of Love and all the psychedelia and all the rest of it. And I'm just wondering, was that difficult to do?
No, I was never sort of drawn to indulging. Really, it never, and obviously the only ones have quite a terrible history about that drug abuse. But I was just never tempted. I just thought, and I think generally sort of seeing what it did to people, that made it even easier to never even think to go there. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is incredible. And thinking about the only ones, obviously, which I started the show with another girl, Another Planet, and that song just seemed to come back again and again and again. It's just, it's just one of those songs that has an incredible immediacy about it.
Yes, I have to, it's got a freshness about it, isn't it? When we recorded it, I always think that something, there's certain tracks when a band are all playing at the best of their ability, something sort of magical happens without being taken into the spiritual side, but just something special happened. When we recorded it, we felt that something, it was started. There was no plan of how that track was going to start. It just started in the studio. Peter just started playing the rhythm like that, and I came into the bass and the offbeat. And it was a natural development, and the guitar solo is just straight off. There's very few overdubs on the track.
It's a funny one too, because it's almost it could be from all sorts of different eras. It could be from 70s, 80s, 90s.
That's right.
It's just got something about it.
When Vodafone picked it up to use it, I had friends who, quite often friends would say to my friends, "Who is this band? They just presumed it was a new band."
Yeah, a young indie band.
Yeah, they did. Even friends' kids, my neighbours' kids would say, "Who?" It wasn't until something was in the press that they found out it was me, but a lot of people were thinking it was a new band.
And you've had lots of experience of producing as well. So with the new project, you say this single, the next one, and the full record, I am imagining then that that's a process that you enjoy.
I love it, yeah. I mean, with the only ones, I just couldn't. I loved that. To me, was heaven to be in a studio in Basing Street, which was a huge big church. The mixing desk always had an appeal to me, and I could not. I would be the one who'd always be there, and Peter. We both would be there till 3, 4 in the morning or all night. I just loved the process of balancing music and making it sound as good as it can.
Are you patient when computers crash and all of that? Pro Tools hell.
Yeah, I've got. Funnily enough, touchwood, the Apple Mac from my own studio has been faultless, so I've been. Very, really lucky, but I'll keep backing things up all the time in case it'll be a disaster to lose the track.
I know, I'm now feeling nervous just sitting here surrounded by computers. One day I was doing the show live and I hadn't realised that a little screen that I was looking at was actually the brains of my desk, and it was kind of on the blink. And I thought, that's fine, it's just the screen. Janice, it's the brain.
Yes.
I think in any situation like this in a studio, you think, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it.
No, that's true.
And another really important thing, I guess, we mentioned John Martin, but just being part of something that's, a sort of lineage of brilliant Scottish music, and going way back to the Beat Stalkers, and think about Frankie Miller too, that you paid tribute to him with the tribute to Frankie Miller's songbook album.
Right. Yeah.
Is it important to you, that sense almost of a sort of Scottish musical heritage, or being part of something?
Really important. Yeah, I think that's, I think it's very privileged to be in a band that people remember or be part of a Scottish music scene. Yeah, really important, and always kind of, always watching out for Scottish bands or, or Scottish artists. And, it's really, it's in your blood, isn't it? Even though I've lived in London all these years, I'm still, very patriotic and very Scottish, and especially about music.
Yeah.
And there's a massive amount of Scottish artists that have travelled the world and played all over the world. Simple Minds to there's a huge output.
Yeah.
It kind of balances the Liverpool scene as far back as that.
Indeed. Well, Simple Minds were on the show recently, and in fact, if you want to have a wee look, we've got this BBC Radio Scotland live on our web page at BBC Scotland, and we're filmed the sessions too. So they did an acoustic sort of unplugged session for us, which we filmed. It looks rather lovely. And maybe if you get the album out next year, you can come up to our big Studio One and do a session for us, which would be great. And
also just to say on the track, of course, there's the guitars that played by Zal Clemenson, which it's very hard to get Zal out of retirement.
This was on Four Winds.
On Four Winds.
I wondered, because I thought that the guitar was stunning.
Yeah, that's Zal Clemenson, and he's moved over he's over in Cyprus just now. But I have said to him, if things go well, would you be up for being part of a band?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
And he actually finally said yes.
Wow.
Well, I did send him the track that was when it was finished, and just to tempt him. No, but that's Zal, and that the guitar part from beginning to end is one take. There's nothing over it. He came in, played it, and that was it. He's an amazing player.
Well, a wee bit of Beat Stalkers meets a wee bit of Sensational Alex Harvey Band. That's
exactly.
That's got to be a good thing.
Exactly.
A potent cocktail.
Yeah.
Alan, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, and very good luck with the single.
My pleasure, Janice. Cheers.
Thank you. Alan Mair there. The single is Four Winds, out on Monday the 15th of December. You can find a link to Alan's website with all the details at the Culture Studio homepage. That was my highlight from the Culture Studio. Thanks for listening.